It's recording. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen first, Dr. Revis, so I can pull up our agenda for today so that they can basically see where we're headed with things. There we go. Did you get that wallpaper down, Dr. Revis?
It's in 2 bathrooms.
Okay, is it in your house or is it in that fixer-upper that you're doing?
It's in the fixer-upper. It's wallpaper from the probably early 1970s, late 70s.
Wow.
And it's probably the.
I bet you got a lot of Harvest Gold and avocado green in there.
Yeah, well, it's some wallpaper, that's for sure.
That was the hippie generation, the wildflower type stuff. So
yeah.
there's all this mod.
Yeah. Yeah, the first house my husband and I bought together, when we got married, we built a house and then we moved and we bought a house. It had the avocado green bathroom fixtures in one, and then the Harvest Gold bathroom fixtures in the other one.
Listen, you didn't have anything if you didn't have avocado green and Harvest Gold. And now this might be too much. Honest to goodness, you may remember this. It was so popular that for a while they started making toilet paper in Harvest Gold and avocado green, and they had to stop it because of some of the dyes that were in the tissue paper. Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
They did.
We were too poor to even think about buying that.
You know, the only reason I remember that, I worked in a grocery store.
Oh.
I remember, and that happened to be on the aisle that I had to work.
Oh my goodness.
We could tell some more stories, Kalisha.
we are about the same age. You're a little bit older.
We could tell some, yeah. We could. Well, Dr. Revis, I think it's time to get started.
Okay, let's go.
Let's just go, because we want to make sure that we have time to cover everything tonight and not hold them any longer than we have to.
Okay. Well, welcome to week 4. It's hard to believe that we are already in week 4. And as I was sharing as we came along, I saw some really good work come in this past week with task 2, and very pleased with that. I want to make a suggestion for my class, and Dr. Stedman, I didn't talk about this with you, so I apologize for throwing this on you.
That's okay.
But we told you, or I said last week, that you can just string all your tasks together. But let me tell you the problem with that. When I was reviewing task 2, I saw some task 1 work that had not been revised. And guys, I just think it's better from here on out to submit those individual tasks, and let's work on that task, get it clear and ready to submit for evaluation. Because if we're not careful, you're going to get your revision versions mixed up. So I'm going to ask my class.
It's for everybody, Dr. Revis. I had several that asked me the same question, and I told them that that's what we were recommended. It just makes it so much easier for you and me to grade, and for their peers. It's confusing for their peers too when they see more than one thing there.
Well, and not only that, they are handing in task 2, but they still got revisions to do on task 1. You just get so messed up.
Right.
Let's do them individually and get them through. But I saw some really strong. I already have, I think, about 5 or 6 in one class have already submitted test 2
I,
for final
yeah,
evaluation.
I have several in both classes that have done that as well. I will say
Yeah.
the biggest thing to remember, and this is not only with just task 2, this is with any of them, do not, and I'm going to emphasize, do not deviate from the template. Follow the template. It's like playing Monopoly. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not deviate from the template. Follow it as it is. And what we have outlined in the helpful hints document, honestly, it's like a recipe. I talked to one of the students today. I said, it's like baking a cake. And if you look at your recipe, it says to put 2 eggs in here, put this in here, put a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. Now, sometimes you think, well, I'm going to just add a little bit more vanilla flavoring, and guess what? It's too much and it doesn't taste right. Or either you take something out and then your cake falls, or your cake's not good. Follow the recipe. Do everything just as it is. Do not add to, nor do you take away from it. And that makes life easy. Fill in the blank with the narrative work and the information that you need. And
And use your helpful hints document.
yes,
That
yes.
helpful hints document describes everything that needs to go in your sections of your template. You can't go wrong if you'll have that helpful hints document right here beside you.
You know what, Dr. Revis, it's kind of like reading the Bible and you have a concordance. You read the word, and then the concordance helps you understand what you're reading. If you go to your concordance and look at things, so kind of say that's my Bible that I'm using and my concordance.
Right.
But the biggest thing though about task 2 is you must make it clear at the end of that document that either your administration is already on your PLC or you have presented to your administration the task 2. It must be obvious. And I would write the word at the end of my document. I would say disclaimer, and I would say my principal or my assistant principal is a part of my PLC. Therefore, I am not required to have a separate presentation meeting because they were there and they were a part of the approval process as we were moving through the different parts of task 2 or whatever task that you're working on. Make it clear that they are a part of the team, and always in all the work that you do, make sure that you showcase yourselves, because it says that you have to show yourself as the leader. I did this with my PLC or the PLC team and I, but show yourself as the leader. That's very, very important. Other than that, Dr. Revis, I'd just say make the edits that you've got to make. Be careful with the APA. Make the edits, get it back in there to us, and we're going to clear you and we're going to move you on, because basically task 2 is history now, other than getting it to us and us grading it and getting it on into Blackboard. We're going to go into task 3.
If I could say something about your
Sure.
revisions for task 2, guys, I need those in here, Thursday, Friday at the latest on your task 2 revisions.
Okay.
You want to get those out of the way,
right?
Because then if I've asked you to submit it back in the thread, if you didn't score 100 for me on that peer and instructor review thread, then you need to resubmit it back there again. And I will tell you when it's ready to put in for final evaluation.
And also there's still maybe a handful, not many, that still have to clear task 1 in the final. You've cleared the peer review process, but you haven't submitted it for final grade, so get that to us as well. Latasha, you had your hand raised.
Yes, sir. What I did, I had linked my task 1 and 2 together. And I had revised it, everything that you said, but I need to, I can't send it task 1 by itself because I already done did task 2 and it's all together.
Okay, well,
That's
after
okay.
today, you know, we'll deal with it up to this point, but
Yeah.
after this time, so beginning with task 3, make sure you send them all separately from this point on.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now that doesn't
Thank
mean that you can't have a running file of your own that you're saving it, because at the end you're going to combine it anyway. And you know, if you work smart, you're going to do that anyway and just have it ready. We're just saying for grading purposes to do that.
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
Revis, let's talk about peer reviews.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Let me stop share.
Yeah, you're gonna have to stop, aren't you?
Okay, yeah.
Want to talk about your peer reviews just for a moment, and I'm going to pull up one. This is actually a peer review that one of you guys did, and this is for task 2. Guys, I want you to look at this peer review. In this section, the second section, look at how the reviewer takes each section and talks about it. Each section. Look at the depth. That's feedback.
Dr. Revis, may I say something now?
Yes,
Now
please.
this is to me, this is an exemplary peer review. Now last week the peer reviews were better than this week. Some of you backslid on us this week. Now we both, Dr. Revis and I both, were a little more lenient on our grading with the peer reviews this week, but we're telling you now, if I make comments to you that you needed to step up your game, first of all, I, as a principal, I don't care. You could have been, and Katie Husband, first of all, I want to recognize her. She is the teacher of the year for Randolph County. Congratulations, Katie. She's to be commended. But Katie is evidently, she's been proven she is one of the best. She's there. But that doesn't mean that there's not room for Katie to continue growing. We don't ever get to the place that I'm 65 years old and I am growing and learning every day. I work full time again. I came out of retirement working full time. I challenge myself to learn every day. And so I, you know, when my board evaluated me this year, I said, okay, thank you for all the accolades. I said, what do you tell me what I can do to make my next year better? You know, you've seen me. You tell me. I wanted to know what I could do better. Do not say, I can't find anything to recommend. It's your job as a leader, as an administrator, to look for opportunities to help that person grow. And you need to challenge them. I don't care how good they are. You need to always find an opportunity to challenge them. So Dr. Revis and I are putting the carrot in front of the rabbit right now, because we're going to see this week just how the challenge is out there. I just want to see who's going to reach. Now, some of you are doing it already, but now some of you, if you put a little statement in there, guess what? You are wasting the person's time and you're wasting our time. Now, we gave you credit for it, but now I'm not going to accept that this week. I'm not going to give you a chance to come back and to fix it either. I'm telling you now, and Dr. Revis is telling you now, do it right the first time. You give a good review just like you would want somebody to do for you and help you. Some of you are getting better than what you're giving.
And
Okay.
I would just like to say that was Sean Garrett's feedback. Sean, great job. And I also would like to say, taking this to the real world, the teachers that I had to spend the most time in thinking about really critical feedback
I know what
were
you're
my
gonna
best
say.
teachers.
Amen. Amen.
So, in that first task, it was easy to find things to talk about because we were
Mhm,
just beginning our writing,
mhm,
but it's going to get harder. You've
mhm.
got to go deep. You've got to think about, how do I help this person grow professionally? That's what good feedback is all about. It's not easy to give good feedback.
Now, Dr. Revis, by the time they get to task 4 of the APSL, they might be at a place where it is going to get a little more difficult.
Yeah.
But at this place, there's not one of you that does not have areas that you cannot be challenged in. So I'm telling you, you're the principal. Your job is to challenge that teacher to take it to the next level. How are you going to do it? Think about it. Okay. And that's all. I'm going to get off that soapbox and we're going to move on. Dr. Evans, let's go ahead into, okay, let's go ahead and talk about, before we get into task 3, let's talk about the review of the APSL task 1 and 2. Let me share my screen. No,
Okay.
let me share my screen first, okay? And then,
Sure.
okay, share screen. And then and then you've got a document, I think, that you're going to pull up
Right.
at some point. Let me stop that. Let me find where it is. Okay. No, this is what I want. Let me go in here. Okay. Let's I'm going to go ahead and show you. Okay, for where you submit your peer review APSL completed. Okay, you see, this is where you complete your APSL completed peer review. Okay, now, Dr. Revis, if you'll be ready, I'm going to show them something, and then I'm going to turn you loose with it. But when you pull that up, I want you to scroll all the way down, and what do you see at the bottom? Now, this is where you've submitted peer review 1, 2 for APSL task 1, peer review 1 and 2 for APSL task 2. This is where you're going to go at the end of this week and first of next week and do task 3 that's going to be submitted, okay? Now I want you to look down here at the bottom, at the very bottom. Zoom video for APSL task 1 and task 2. Now what we're going to talk about next, this is where it's going to be submitted for us for grade, okay? Now, Dr. Revis, you want to go ahead and look at what I've got on the screen and take it from there, and then you can pull up your document, or okay, can't hear you.
Well, I muted myself. Let's just go ahead. If you'll stop share, I want
Okay.
to talk
Okay,
a little bit about what you're going to do in this Zoom video. Well, first and foremost, what we want you to do is select a Zoom master, someone who is going to be the facilitator for the Zoom meeting, okay? And can you see this, Dr. Stedman?
I cannot yet.
Okay, hold on. I have done something wrong here. Let me go back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
There you
I
are.
think I have closed it out. Hold on just a second. I can get it right here.
Yeah.
This is posted in week 4, and it's called Professional Dialogue Starters. Now, first of all, this is not a time when you're just getting together with people that you've met in the class and just talk informally. This is a professional dialogue, and we want it to remain professional. So that's why we're going to give you some dialogue starters, if you will. So, first of all, introduce yourselves. We see you, but sometimes we can't put a name and a face together at this point. So make sure that you start out by everybody introducing yourselves. And secondly,
Dr.
we're
Revis,
gonna-
may I say something first? So let's say, for
Sure.
instance, Evangela Richardson, I see her. Let's say, for instance, that Evangela, you are the Zoom master for this activity. You will actually be the one that would start the dialogue, and you just say, this is team one. I am Evangela Richardson. I am the Zoom master for this activity, and then you would allow everybody else to introduce themselves that is a part of that. Go ahead, Dr. Revis.
Right. And again, we're doing a professional dialogue. So here are just some ideas. You do not have to do every one of these. You can pick and choose as a group how you want to do it, or you may have other things that you want to share. What we're after is we want to hear you reflect on your experiences from task 1 and 2, leading your PLC in task 1. In task 2, doing your data analysis, your data dive. So describe your experience with leading your PLC. I know that many of you wrote in your task 1 that you've been doing PLCs, but not this model of the PLC. And so you had to lay some background information and talk about the PLC model, the DeFore model that we're using in this class. Share what went well, what you wish you could have done differently, what you learned from leading this PLC. During your task 2 is when you did your data dive. What went well? What did you learn about the data that was available? What have you learned about disaggregating data? Did you have to redirect your PLC discussion at any time? If so, what were some of those redirection techniques? Share how you moved the team to a consensus of the most pressing need. And most of all, I'd like to hear how you feel like you have grown as a leader through these 2 tasks. So those are some things that you can choose from. Again, we are talking about a professional dialogue.
Okay.
If someone starts getting off into, oh, I just haven't had enough time, the pace is too fast, I just don't know what I'm doing. Zoom leader, that's as your facilitator, you bring those people back on to the task at hand. It's not a time to start griping and complaining about all the work that's being thrown your way. We all know it's a lot of work. We want to know how you've grown as a leader. And Dr. Stebbin, you want to talk about what else they can
I do,
discuss?
but I want them to make sure. Now, for the last 3 weeks, you've been required to read out of several textbooks that you had to purchase for this class. This is an opportunity to let us know that you are reading the materials, and I would refer to the textbook. I would say, you know, while I was reading so-and-so, the author, the researcher said this. Begin talking the scholarly language, you know, and let us know. You know, it's okay to let us know that you learned something when you were reading that material. It's okay to pull it out and, you know, to say something about it, you know, to the group that, you know, I'd like to share this because I found this when I was reading such and so, you know, and it relates to what you're doing. Dr. Revis, what were you asking me? Did I want to do what now?
And you want to share about, they can go on and talk about task 3.
Yeah. If you would quit, are you through with this?
I am.
Because I want to pull something else up while we're doing this.
Okay.
Now, we say that it's for task 1 and 2 of the AAPSL. However, because we will have introduced task 3 tonight, and you've been introduced to tasks 4 and 5, after you've talked about task 1 and 2, it's okay while you've got the group together there. It's okay to go ahead and to talk about tasks 3, 4, and 5. We don't care, you know, as you are projecting, you know, things and getting ideas from each other, you know, use that time to do that as well. Now, what we're going to challenge you to do is, I want to find, we want to challenge you to, I've got to go back up and I can't get it to go back up. Here it is. I want to challenge you to, we're not coming online on Thursday night on purpose. Now, normally, sometimes we do but because we're trying to be conscious of your time and where you are used to coming online on Thursday nights already, we're challenging you, take this opportunity to go ahead and meet as a group and get this done on Thursday night. You're used to it anyway. That will get you ahead of the game. Also, it will help you as you are moving forward with tasks 3, 4, and 5, you know, to probably project and to do a better job, you know, having talked to each other about it. Now you don't have to. If all the group can't do it, then, you know, that's left up to the group. It's got to be done. We're just giving you this so that you can go ahead and get ahead of the game and get something done, because normally we would say next week, do this. You've got until the end of week 5 to submit this to us. Dr. Revis, while I am finding this, tell them exactly what the responsibility of the Zoom leader is going to be with their group concerning this.
Right. Well, the Zoom leader, in my opinion, should develop an agenda and should share the Zoom link, develop and share the Zoom link. I would expect the Zoom leader to move the discussion along, you know, be mindful of everyone's time and make sure that people get an equal voice in the discussion. Try not to let anyone dominate, if you will. But what we're trying to do here is you also have to record it. Okay, so don't forget, when you start your Zoom meeting, before you make introductions, do your recording, because the Zoom master will then send that recording link to each team member. And then the team member, each team member will submit that in that Dropbox along with a reflection piece, which I think maybe Dr. Stedman's trying to get up here.
Yeah, yeah. This is, well, no. What I wanted to do is, once they've set up their Zoom, everybody, you need to all have your Zoom account set up, and you've got to hold your own Zoom setting like Dr. Revis and I are having tonight. Now, whoever the Zoom captain is, at the end, you are going to be responsible, just like at the end of every week, Dr. Revis and I send you the link for that night with a recorded video. And I'm trying to let me see if let me speed this up. At the end of your scale handbook, your MELS scale handbook, at the very end of it, anyway, I for the life of me, I can't find it right now. At the end of your MELS scale handbook, you need to go there. At the very end, it's at page 100 and something, but it tells you how, if you don't know how, it tells you how to set up your YouTube account and to make your YouTube video. It's step by step. It tells you exactly what to do. Now, the Zoom master will be responsible for doing that, and once it's done, the link to that video is what you will be required to send the live link to each of the members of that team. Your responsibility then is to post that where I told you to post it in Blackboard. that is where you'll get a final grade. Well, you'll say, well, Dr. Stedman, we're all going to get the same grade. Not necessarily. You
I know
all
when
will,
Dr. Stedman, go ahead.
all of you will have the same video in there, but all of you might not get the same grade. And tell them why, Dr. Revis.
Well, when we watch your video, and we only have to watch 5 videos, but we take notes. I list all the team members. I start scripting things you share and things you say. And that's individualized as far as I'm concerned. And that's how we assign your grades based on your participation. And if you are using the professional language and the scholarly language that we've talked about. So, we may only have to watch one video for 5 of you, but we are scripting and reviewing each individual person's participation. Tanya says it's on page 52
Page 52.
in our.
Thank you, Tanya. I looked it up today. I went too far. At page 52 in your scale handbook. Thank you for sharing that. Page 52, and it tells you step by step what to do, how to do it. Set up your YouTube account if you don't already have one. It's free, and then what to do.
And I think there's a limit on the free account, right? As far as time limit.
For the Zoom account, it's 40 minutes. However, if your team goes, you should be able to do it in that length of time. But if some of them don't, Dr. Revis, it's okay to and some of you may have a Zoom account already at school. I don't care. If you've got that and it's an unlimited like ours is, then you can use that. We don't care as long as you have to use a Zoom account though. But it's after 40 minutes. You can actually you can have it set up. If it runs over, you can turn around and just say, hang on, and send out another link and pick right back up where you left off on by setting up another one immediately after that, if you need to do that. Most people don't have to. You can finish it in 40 minutes because we don't want you to go on and on unnecessarily. But in 40 minutes, they should be able to do everything. Wouldn't you say so, Dr. Revis? I can't hear you.
I missed the.
I said, and don't you think that they should be able to finish in about 40 minutes though at the most? She's still frozen. Okay. Let's she'll come back in a minute then. And then let's move on. Dr. Revis will join us in just a few minutes. Do we have any questions at all before we go any further with what we're doing? Let me stop share to see if we have any questions at all at this point about what we've talked about with anything up to this point. Any questions? So everybody, you understand what your responsibilities are going to be with the task?
Dr. Stedman, I have a question.
Sure.
Hey, when we submit our task, you said tonight to submit the task individually. Whenever I list like my exhibit A, B, C, so for task 3, if I have something that would need to be like in an appendix, do I just label that like if I'm on letter G, do I continue on with G? I don't have to go back and label that appendix A, right?
Now, we really don't care if you have a running appendices and a running reference section. Those are the only 2 things that doesn't matter. If you add those to the end of the existing document, you can have a running reference and a running appendices and add it to document 3. You don't have to take anything out. Just submit everything and keep adding it up until the end. That's the only thing that we don't care if you keep that there.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you for asking that. Okay, Dr. Revis, are you still frozen?
I think I'm back. I
No,
hope I am.
You're back. You're back.
Okay.
Before we go in,
I have a question.
go ahead.
So, you all were discussing what we're gonna do with our Zoom
Uh-huh.
teams. And I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So we're meeting with our Zoom members and we're discussing these questions that you guys just went over.
Or yes, that's just a guide, but it's anything that you want to talk about your experience with task 1 and task 2 of the AAPSL. That is a guide to help the leader of that team to get the group started. And then you can add to, you don't have to cover everything that we included in that, but that's just to give you something to work with.
And so the leader is submitting the Zoom video that's recorded of us doing this to you.
They send it to each of the members, and each member will submit their own to that place in the Dropbox, the peer review Dropbox at the end. Each one will submit the same link for that team.
Okay.
But the leader's responsibility, it'll be your responsibility as the leader to take care of all that this time. Now, there will be other opportunities for somebody else to say, okay, Tag, you're it this time. I was the leader last time. Somebody else needs to take that responsibility the next time with your Zoom team.
And then one last question. And what did we need to make a video of on YouTube?
You will actually, that will be the Zoom meeting that you have with your team.
Okay.
Just like you get a Zoom video of tonight, everything you say, everything you talk about will be recorded. That's what Dr. Revis and I will get to review.
Okay.
Right. YouTube is just where you're hosting that recording.
Right.
Okay.
Good questions though, Natasha.
Thank you.
I've got one more hand up. Kayla?
Yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to know, is only the group leader or the Zoom master submitting to YouTube? Hello?
Okay. We didn't hear you, Kayla.
Is the Zoom master the only one that's going to submit to YouTube, to the YouTube part?
Yes, they will be
Yes.
responsible for creating
Okay.
the video, and then they will send that link to you, Kayla. If you're
Okay.
not if you're not the leader, then whoever the leader is will send it to you.
Okay. And then are you guys gonna post the guide?
Post to what?
The questions that you just said were a guide?
That is
Yes.
under week 4 already.
Yeah.
Okay,
It-
okay, thank you.
Lauren, you have your hand up?
I was wondering, I feel like you guys said along with the Zoom link, we need to post a reflection. Is that
No.
correct? No?
No, you don't have to do a reflection on this. All we need is the Zoom video on this.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I did say
No,
reflection. I'm
yeah, I'm
sorry.
sorry. The reflection is when we get to the case studies.
Case studies. Yeah.
You don't have to, all you've got to do on this is the Zoom video.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, let's move on. And then if we can answer other questions, towards the end. Let's move on to let's go to this. Okay, I messed up again. I've got to share. Okay, now let me. Okay, here we go. Okay, task 3. Dr. Revis, actually, did you need to share something, or did we need to show this first and then you're going to share?
However you want to do it, Dr. Stedman.
Okay, let's talk about this, and then I think what you've got will make this more understandable after we get through with this. Let's talk about task 3. right now. And Dr. Revis, if you'll kick it off, then I will pick up.
Okay, so in task 3, what you're doing is you are taking your most pressing need and you're going to start doing some research. You know, a lot of times we identify our pressing need, but we don't ever consult the research. So I think actually what I'd like to do, Dr. Stebbin, is refer back to, let's refer back to Dr. Hamilton's. Can I do that right quick?
Yes, I will stop sharing and then I can
Yeah.
always come back to this, okay?
Okay.
Let me stop sharing and then I'll come back to that.
I'm sorry. My computer is being unstable tonight.
That was mine last week.
Okay. This is actually what Dr. Hamilton went over last Thursday evening, just as a review. So let's look at this slideshow again. You have 2 prompts in the AAPSL task 3. The first prompt is where you have your research. And the second prompt is where you will do your visuals again. So let's look at this prompt 1, the research. There are 2 pieces. You have the annotated bibliography and you have a literature review. You're taking your most pressing academic need, you're rolling your sleeves up, and some of you have already started, and you are going to the library and you're researching your most pressing need. So what we want to do is a brief literature review. And remember, this literature review, you did one back in task 1. The PLC research was a brief literature review on PLCs. That's exactly the same thing you're going to do on your most pressing need. For example,
But this time, your everything in your research is about your most pressing need, though.
Yes. So let's say, for example, your most pressing need, after you've looked at your data, is reading comprehension. Then you're going to go in your Dover library, you're going to type in reading comprehension, and you're going to get a lot of information. What the literature is looking for, what are the causes? What are the causes of poor reading comprehension? And you're going to find things like fluency, phonics, and those kinds of things. So you're investigating what the literature says about your most pressing need, what it is, and what are some root causes. Your annotated bibliography is where you do research on solutions. So your annotated bibliography should have 8 resources on solutions. 3 of those resources need to be something about an online program or research-based practices. Okay. Your literature review should have a minimum of 3 resources. And these should be about the most pressing need, the root causes, and information about your most pressing need. Again, what does the research say are root causes of children who struggle with reading comprehension? I promise you, you're going to find fluency and phonics as part of your root causes. And that's just an example. And then you're going to get some possible solutions through your annotated bibliography. So let me share with you what that looks like. On this slide, this is not a slide, this is a Word document. I'm going to go to their literature review. It's a narrative, just like you did in the PLC research in task 1. You're going to talk about it. You're going to identify what it is and what are some of the root causes of the problem. A known problem hinges around lack of problem-solving skills. And this particular person was looking with students with disabilities, I believe in mathematics was their most pressing need. So you see how this is written as a narrative. Okay. And 3 resources. Use your APA in-text citations. You're telling a story about your most pressing need, not the story of your school. You're saying what the research says. An annotated bibliography looks like this. You're going to have 8 resources, 5 regular and 3 about online tools. This is written just like you would write in a reference for APA style, author, resource, etc. And then you briefly describe the resource. Okay, you're going to describe you're going to describe 8 resources, 5 regular, and then 3 online tools.
And Dr. Revis, these are hanging indents.
All of your text is a hanging indent. And when you put them all together, they're alphabetical by author, just like you would put them in a reference. Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Racine,
so sorry. I'm so hoarse tonight.
that's okay. That's okay. Racine, go ahead, rest your voice. Racine, what's your question?
I'm just trying to confirm if the 3 resources we use for the literature review are also supposed to be part of that annotated bibliography, or if they're just separate in the literature review.
They can be separate as long as they can, but they have to be about, let me come back. All of it has to be about your identified problem. Everything has to be related to your identified problem from task 2.
And when you're doing your annotated bibliography, you're trying to find solutions. You're looking at research-based programs, research-based strategies, research-based online tools, which is different than what you're talking about in your mini lit review. And those
Okay,
two
thank you.
documents are in week 4 that I just shared. Well, Dr. Hamilton's is in week 3.
Right.
So Dr. Rivas, you said that with the bibliography, we're focused on best practices of things that we'll do that will improve our pressing need. But in the literature review, those 3 sources are what?
Those 3 sources just support your research on your best practice.
Okay. Dr. Revis, let's do this. Okay, this is the helpful hints document. Let's look at it. Task 3, prompt 1. Once you have completed task 1 and 2 successfully and you've presented to the principal, then you move forward with task 3. Your focus in prompt 1 will be the identified need from task 2. And that's what Dr. Revis was talking about. You know, if it's comprehension or whatever the problem is. You will create an annotated bibliography that Dr. Revis has just talked about. Now, you're going to do the mini research section and the annotated bibliography. It doesn't really matter which order it's in. Dr. Revis has always said she likes to see the research done first and then do your, you know, it doesn't matter. You can do that either or. but you've got to do both. But you're going to create an annotated bibliography that is featured in the narrative to evidence and illustrate resources for best practices in the identified need area. And including in this is a section that features online tools to support the teacher and student. Everything that you do from this point on is going to be, you're trying to find, just say that your identified problem is like the doctor, and there's a sickness there. The doctor is trying to find solutions to heal the sickness, to take care of the sickness, to prescribe for the sickness. So you're looking for solutions for the sickness in your school, if that's the way you want to look at it, you know, whatever the weakness is or the, you know, the most pressing need. And again, Dr. Revis has already said there's 8 tools that you're going to use. And I'm going to show you the example in just a minute, but there's the 8 tools, 5 regular, 3 are going to be technology based. Then you're going to do the mini research section on the best practices for your identified problem. You must have 3 resources there. And then after that, prompt 2, there's 2 prompts. You're going to use multiple graphic organizers and visuals. That's going to, you've written about it up there in prompt 1. Now you're going to show us some things, some diagrams. You know, it's like x-rays that the doctor uses. You know, he's written it in the narrative form. Now he's taking x-rays, and the x-rays are going to really help us start pinpointing, you know, some of the things. Now, I'm going to stop this, because what I want to do now, Dr. Revis, I want to actually pull up the AAPSL example that we have in, this is what you have in Blackboard. And some of this is already, now I want you to notice how it starts out. This person said, I initiated the research for the best practices based on the overall need assessment findings. The PLC members agreed that at this school, the most pressing need was to close the historical math learning gap between students with disabilities and students without disabilities by 50% for the current 6th grade students. Dr. Revis, what they've done, they've restated their problem. They're identified the most pressing need, they've restated it. Now, they actually started out with their literature review. And I like this as well. I like to really start out with that, because all they've done, they've identified their problem. Now, what does the research say about my identified problem? This identified problem here, what does the research say? Now, I'm not going to read all this, but I want you to look at, according to Ubben and al., the federal disability categories include, but are not limited to autism. They started talking about, you know, what do disabilities include? They've just, you know, everything that they've said in the research talks about what their most pressing need is, students with disabilities in that need. Everything in the research says that. It goes on to say, now look here, whereby the teacher's low expectations directly translated into students holding low expectations of their performance. That's what the research says, not what somebody thought. But Woodcock and Weil said that, you know, that students with disabilities often have low expectations of themselves. You know why? Because everybody else has low expectations of them. That's what the research says. Now, then you've done your research. Now the annotated bibliography. Now I want you to look, because I went through this, Dr. Revis, and I want you to look. Every one of their annotations, these are the 5 regular. Notice it's from current issues and trends in education, but I want you to look what it says. These 2 authors from the University of Alabama at Birmingham did an amazing job outlining several known issues and recent trends in education. They directed their readers' attention to profoundly relevant and sometimes controversial topics in education from a purposeful mindset to view these matters through the lenses of politics. And it goes on to say, the main purpose of evaluating this source, they're telling us why they even use that source. The main purpose that they chose to use that source was to consider the author's position on how teaching devices impact instruction for students with disabilities. Do you see? It's related to their identified need. And then it goes on to talk about other things as it relates to students with disabilities and students without disabilities. Look at the next one. This is number 2. Students' use of electronic support tools in mathematics. Remember, it was their mathematics problem. And this, they've just done a synopsis of what this resource looks like. And it's related to mathematics. Look at the third one. Evaluating reading and mathematics instruction for students with learning disabilities. Then they talked about it. The fourth one, electronic book for promoting emergent math, a comparison between kindergarten at risk for learning disabilities and with typical development. Then it talks about it. And then the fifth one, promoting access to Common Core mathematics for students with severe disabilities through mathematical problem solving. All 5 of the regular resources were dealing with students with disabilities, and it was math related, because that's what they said their problem was. Now, look what they have embedded in there. They have embedded some diagrams, some graphics that help explain some of what they're talking about. You should do the same thing. There should be graphics, and a lot of times when you're looking at your research, so a lot of those graphics are embedded in there already for you. And I don't know how to get rid of that. There it goes. Okay, then here's your 3 online digital tools for teachers. Notice what it says. The first one, Curriculum Advantage Incorporated, the student experience, retrieved from, and it tells you where, the classwork software. Online, the classwork software product designed by this vendor appears to offer very similar options, and it goes on to talk about the RTI process. Then it goes into Edgenuity, My Path. Edgenuity, My Path is an intervention program for secondary grades starting at 6th grade that present data-driven differentiated teaching in math and ELA. But it goes on to talk about these are online resources. And then Renaissance Accelerated Math. It talks about those. Now, those are your 3 online resources. And let's see and then what they've done is they've looked at several options, that can help attack the identified problem from task 2. Now, let's get to prompt number 2. Overall, the PLC members led by myself agreed that the next step is for me to schedule a meeting with the administrator to present the team's findings. This is what we have found that could possibly help us with the identified problem that we found in task 2. The PLC members support the idea that based on the findings of the most pressing need and the research-based best practices strategies, accelerated math can best meet the school's need to improve 6th grade math performance of students with disabilities. So they have even said that accelerated math, which is an online tool, research-based online tool, they think that this is the best thing that they can use based on their research to help the students with problems. And it goes on to show, their graphics help further explain what they're talking about. Dr. Rebus, what would you like to add to that?
Well, I would say if I were scoring this person has done an outstanding job with the research and the annotated bibliography. I would like to see in prompt 2, Dr. Stedman,
Right.
a few more graphics and visuals. I would like to see you have talk about how you presented this information to your PLC, how they looked at maybe the different programs, and maybe looked at the results and the research behind the different programs. So I would say this one's a little weak in those in those graphics and
Right.
visuals there.
That was
for
not,
part two.
and again, when that was done, we said at the beginning that while it is proficient work, it may not be accomplished work. But it does give you a guideline and gives you good examples of how, now the work they've got, there's nothing wrong with the work they've got. They
No,
just needed to
it's
do
very
more.
well done.
Yeah, they needed to do more. Okay, Brian has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. Can you give a little more examples of, on the graphics for you? I saw that that in last week's presentation, she had kind of a spreadsheet and then a mind map kind of thing going. Is there some other examples of?
That is also in your week 3. Everything that she showed you last week is under week 3.
Yes, and I saw those two. Is there other examples? I'm trying to wrap my head around what graphics I could use for this to really. I'm just having a tough time
Right.
thinking about what graphics.
Brian, those are, and Dr. Revis is probably going to say something. Those are good examples. That is, you and your team should actually collaborate about other examples that you possibly could use. Now, you're going to find some of them automatically when you begin doing your research. They're going to be in there. Anytime you find a research evidence-based program, if you look into the program, they've got a lot of graphics and visuals that are already made for you. You can actually, this is another time where the data that you disaggregated back in task 2, some of that information may be needed to be shown in there as you are talking about students with disabilities. Wouldn't you say so, Dr. Revis, that they might need to justify with what this is what it looks like at my school, and compare it to what the research says, and compare it to the programs, because you want to match that need with the best program. And so when they show you something in their program, you compare that program to the data that you already have based on the identified need. And sometimes you will find yourself using data that you've already used before, again, to make sure that that what you're trying to do is understood.
Right. And I think the thing that I want to emphasize here is with your PLC, you're going to present your PLC with all this research that you've done. You're going to share with them all these different programs that you have researched. And I think, Brian, what you were talking about is maybe like a decision-making chart where you're looking at these 8 different programs, and you're talking about maybe the pluses and the minuses, if you will, for the different programs, and how you're making that decision with your team to come up with your recommendation of what you would recommend to use in your school.
And Dr.
So
Revis, they need to think about too that when you're looking at programs, you've got to look at what kind of cost is involved in it, because if it's a $1 million program, that your school district probably can't buy that, or if it's whatever the cost is, if you're a Title I school, will our Title I funds support the cost of something like accelerated math? That's probably a program that would be reasonable to ask for. So even when you put them out on that spreadsheet, like Dr. Revis said, you may say this is a great program, but there's no reason to even presenting it because we can't afford this program.
And that may be one of the reasons that you just eliminate a program.
Right.
And I was talking or had an email with one candidate today, and she was sharing that, well, we already use this program and that program. Well, my response to this would be, okay, if you're already using an online tool to address a specific issue, your most pressing need, and it's not addressing it, then you either need to look at, is this really the appropriate tool that we need? Or maybe we're not implementing with fidelity. So even though you may have some online tools, they may not match up to your most pressing need.
And that goes back to the old cliche, if you keep on doing what you've always been doing, you keep on getting what you've always gotten. So, you have to be real, and you might need to say, based on the research, we just don't think this program's working, and, we need to find something else. That can be part of your recommendation. Now, they may not do that, but you will at least have made the recommendation.
And what we're wanting you to do here is understand the process that we sometimes overlook so quickly as educators. We find out what our most pressing need is, but we don't take the step for research. You know where we get most of our research from? We look at people next door in a different school district, and if they're doing well, that's the program we want. May not even address your need.
It's called a bandwagon.
Your program has to address your need.
Okay, let's see. Katie, you had your hand up. We'll get to the rest of them. Katie?
Y'all kind of answered it, but I just want to make sure. So if I choose 3 online programs, are they going to be like, if we choose one of those, it has to be one that we can afford, that we are going to be able to actually get?
Or you can recommend it, but now I wouldn't recommend something that that it's just not probable. If you think it's
okay, that's what I'm
likely,
sure.
then yes, you can go for it if you think it's likely, but I would have a backup plan as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, the other thing, Katie, you can't force, and we can't force your administrator to, take your recommendations and run with it. We just want you to put it out there and give the information.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, Kayla.
Okay, I still don't understand, like, where are we finding the programs from? Are they talked about in the literature?
In your
or is that a separate assignment?
Go ahead, Revis.
Well, yeah, Kayla, some of them will probably be mentioned when you do your research. And you and I can work together. I know you were having a hard time trying to find some programs, and I can probably shoot you some key search words.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to a librarian today, and there's not a whole lot of research on my topic, which I'm kind of surprised about because it seems to be like a pressing need in a lot of places. But
I think you're correct. It is a pressing need. You would think there would be tons out there, but I'll work with you and we'll see if we can get some keywords. Okay.
Kayla, you may not have much, and you may have to just work with what you've got out there as long as you get the resources, if there's not a lot out there. But Dr. Revis will guide you on that. Jennifer?
Yeah, because it's kind of taboo, teaching math online. It's that's more of a new thing as a result of COVID and the pandemic.
Right.
But traditionally, there's some programs, but there's just not a whole lot of data that I'm seeing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk, Kayla.
Okay, thank you.
And Jennifer, you have your hand up.
Yes. Quick question about the annotations. Are they mostly like summary annotations of the benefits? Like it's not an evaluative annotation, right? I'm not making an evaluation of it. I'm just doing a summary. Okay, I just wanted to verify that. Thank you very much.
That's good clarification on that, Jennifer.
Perfect.
Rachel?
Thank you.
For the resources that are not online, are you talking about things like the Fountas and Pinnell level literacy intervention, stuff like that?
Yeah, it could be a book.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be any resource that could help you. Could be something that could help you with your problem. It could be a book. It could be materials and resources. And I'm going to go back to the old timey SRA reading labs.
Right.
Something of that nature. I
Okay.
actually,
You're
I
dating
actually,
yourself.
yeah, but
Right.
guess what? I bought 4 of those to use with some of my after-school programs because they are still good.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Okay. Um, Natasha.
Yes, so once we're looking at all the data, well, the research with our PLC, and we're trying to identify the way that we'll solve our pressing need problem,
Uh-huh.
do we have to have, does it have to be that we choose an online tool to use? Or can it be like a best practice that we know instruction wise that maybe teachers need to do?
It can be a best practice. In the end, you're just going to have the option of looking at an online tool.
Okay.
Does that make sense? It could be any of the 8. It could be a regular resource, and it can be an online tool. It can be a combination of things. You actually could recommend 2 of the online resources.
Okay.
It could be any combination of any of it.
Yeah. Or it could be a combination of, these best practices and this online resource
Right,
Okay.
for our after school work or whatever,
right.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Jennifer? Okay. We got you and we got Kayla. Okay, is there anybody else? Dr. Revis, we have covered a ton of stuff in an hour and 9 minutes.
Well, as you probably realize, guys, this is a lot of writing for this task. So a lot of research. You're going to have to go to your Dover library and go back and look at that video that we posted from Dr. Bishop about how to search and narrow down your keywords. It's a lot of research and a lot of writing.
And
Plus,
Dr. Revis, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
plus you've got to then meet with your team. So a lot of work.
Yes, Jennifer, that would be good. Let me give you we're going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to tell you something that I probably shouldn't tell you. This is one of those weeks that you always are supposed to keep your PLC aware of what's going on. But this week, you're pretty much working pretty independently. The research is going to be mainly you. So don't be held hostage with the thinking, I've got to bring this to my PLC. You're going to do most of the work, if not all of it, and then you just bring it back and you share it with your PLC. You don't have to, don't get bogged down in that you've got to bring every little thing about this to their attention. You're the leader, you do the research, and then you bring it to them, and they may have ideas beyond that. But if you can't, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time with your PLC this week. Wouldn't you say so, Dr. Revis?
I would say so. I would at least have things very organized
Yes.
and to present to them.
Yeah.
And again, I love the idea of a T chart looking
Right.
at the positives and negatives
Right.
and you don't have to present all the programs
But
or
I
all
would
the best practices.
I would have just about everything ready to lay out on the table
Yes.
when I met with them, so that you're organized and you're ready to go, and just say, it's just like, and I'll use this as an example. I used to, when my son was little, I would take him shopping and he wanted everything. So sometimes I would say, okay, he would and I would lay 3 things up there. I'd say, okay, you can have one of these 3. And you're going to lay out things on the table. You're going to say, this, based on my research, this is what I found. Help me decide which of these 3 do you think is going to be best for our, the problem we've identified. You don't have to present this to the principal this time, so you don't have to find time to, you may want to run it by them, but you don't have to. You're not at that point yet. So this one you do not have to present to administration. Not yet. You'll do that in task 4. Okay. Did we take a photo? Yes, Brandon, I would always look for an opportunity to show myself leading my team. That's always that's just an easy artifact. And remember that anytime you meet with your PLC, make sure you've got an agenda, show who's present, and always put that in your appendices. Again, that is just solid proof that you're leading. That's an easy thing to do.
And I'm going to birdwalk just a moment. Don't forget, when you're leading your PLC, that can also count for your clinical hours.
Oh,
So don't forget that as well.
Yeah. Y'all are really doing great. Dr. Revis and I were bragging on you today that you're making progress pretty fast with this evidence work. I think that the light bulb is coming, and even the questions that you're asking us lets us know that you're understanding what you're doing. But you're there. And remember, you made it past week 3, you're into week 4 now. So you're keepers now. That's just it. You belong to us.
Yeah.
No, Lauren, you don't ever have to wait. If you finish a task, now you may not be able to, you may do what you can on a task. If you're getting ahead, do what you can on a task, and you can reach out to Dr. Revis and me. However, Dr. Revis and I won't have the time that we can, that we can individualize a task ahead of time. We just don't have that kind of time with trying to keep up with the grading of your work and, getting the quick turnaround that we have to do on that. You can ask us a question, but we may not be able to camp out there with you until that actual week when we're presenting it. But yes, you don't have to wait. If you understand it, go ahead and gather stuff and get started on it if you're completed with something. You're doing great. Any other questions?
I have one. Do you have to have an actual Zoom master, or could you kind of divide the work up, whereas one person say, oh, I can make the agenda? No.
No, the Zoom master, the Zoom master, because if you don't, Evangela, what's going to happen, it just may not happen. And that's why this is an opportunity that we also see leadership in each of you as you take charge of this activity. So if you do it this time, then we're evaluating you on your leadership in this activity. And then the next time it will be somebody else in your team that does a case study, leads off on the case study. And you've got more than one. So it's just really a great opportunity for you to accentuate your full leadership when you do this. Now, once as the leader, if you talk with somebody and you say, I want you to do this, you're held responsible for it, or you're responsible as the leader to make sure they get it done. We don't care. We won't even see that. Okay, other questions? Other question? Well, okay, Sean Garrett. Sean, you got a question?
Yeah, I was wanting to know, do we just go ahead and email our team
Yeah, and so
about the time and stuff?
yeah, one of you, and Sean, sometimes what happens, somebody on the team has to go ahead and say, I'll be the leader and go ahead and make.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Damien?
I had a quick question about the log hours. I've been tasked again with another graduate student intern, and I have to coordinate his activities over several areas for tutoring and some other things. Can I use that in my log?
You can use some of it. Now, remember, that's probably going to be a whole semester, so we can count a portion of it.
Yes, I was looking for just some of it because I know that as I study these competencies, I was going to just keep the email logs and a few activities that we do.
Yeah, and
like competency 20, yeah. I've been studying a little bit, 20, 21, and 1 and 2, I believe.
Yeah, that will work. That will work.
Okay,
And if you have
thank
any
you.
questions, you can reach out to Dr. Revis about any of those, since she will be evaluating those. So if you have any questions about something, just reach out to her.
Yes, sir.
Okay, DeAndre?
Hey, quick question. So when if we're the Zoom master, can we add that to our log as a task, or is that separate?
No, that can be, that's a leadership activity.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Latasha?
Yes, sir. I was wondering, when it says that we have to present present task 1 and 2 to our principal, and then it says you can move forward with task 3. Are you talking about because I have an admin in my PLC, can that be to him, or it has to be my head admin?
No, if your assistant principal is there, the principal has given them that you don't have to go any further than that unless that person says we need to present this to the principal. And remember, I
Okay.
said at the beginning that you just need to put a disclaimer in your work, just stating that you know that an administrator is a part of my PLC. Therefore, I am not required to do the formal presentation to administration since they're already there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Latasha? Did I ask?
Yes,
Damien,
sir. Yes, sir, you did. Thank
okay,
you.
Damien, your hand's still. Okay,
Oh,
well,
let me take it down. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. Okay, one more time before we leave. Okay, well, good night, everybody. And again, try as much as you can to begin moving forward with getting your task 1 and task 2 activity done, so you can get that behind you as well. Okay, have a good week, the rest of the week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.